Dun, 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 dun. We are live. We're a minute early. Hail
Minute
all to
early.
the Queen Audit.
Queen Mona. Queen everyone. Hi everyone.
Hey,
Oops.
everybody that's joining us. We'll wait for a few people. There will be no crap in this chat. Woohoo! Haggis is here. Thank you, Haggis.
Right.
I was going to try and do it all by myself, and I'm like,
There'll
oh,
be
because
no crap
Haggis
in
was
this
over
chat.
there.
True, yes.
But
Nope, there's gonna be work. We're getting to work. We're getting back to we're ignoring everything and going to work. That's what I
we
need to stay
are.
focused.
And the rules are Haggis and everybody that is coming in. Love does win. Yes, it does. Is that there will be no fighting. If you want questions, ask questions. We don't mind as long as they're appropriate questions. There will
Yes.
be no shenanigans.
No
And
shenanigans.
Haggis has the wrench, and
Uh-oh.
she is good at it.
Yielded yielded gently, no, or harshly, whatever. No, we're here to
Oh,
work. I can't, I can only tolerate so much shenanigans. I need to get back to work.
absolutely. YRB just said many people have contributed to the successes. Thank you all. That is
Absolutely.
100%. That's 110%. Is that there are so many people
Mhm.
that
It's a collective.
audit. Did you get a haircut?
I did a couple, like 2 weeks ago? Like right before the amazing event. But it's like, I know it's just wacky right now. I'm sorry,
No,
my
I'm
dogs are a
laughing
little.
at Peter. He's jumping on the couch.
It's like,
Peter, you make me crack up. And the
um,
dogs are even, they're howling for you.
yeah, see the dogs, I know. And the planes overhead, sorry. I got banished.
Haggis says, take your shoes off if you're going to jump on the couch, Peter.
Yes, please. So I get
Oh,
started. Okay. You want to start? Or you want me
sure, I'll start.
to? Okay.
So, what we gathered you all here for, yes, Peter, you have to have fun. Yeah, we all have to have fun. I agree. Nobody's going to steal my joy, man. Nobody. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy the passion. I enjoy being able to put one over on Scientology in any way we can, any way, shape, or form. And that's what we're doing is we're just continuing to march on. So what's
Mhm.
up now that Odd and I wanted to talk to you about? We were talking a little bit about it this morning. Is that Audit so eloquently put together? If you remember last year, we did the civil grand jury, YRB, shout out to YRB.
Mhm.
And
Her idea.
and it was a wonderful idea. It had wonderful repercussions, wonderful results. And we thought that we would do that again this year, but hit them on different levels for different ideas. Hey, Fingy. Hi, Love Wins. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Peter. Hi, Amy. I know I'm missing people. I'm sorry. Um, yeah,
Hi everyone.
so we decided to do it again this year, and Audit and others have put their minds together. We have 11 of them. However, we're only going to go through a few of them tonight. There is an annual report that was filed.
I
Um,
posted it.
Audit did post it the other day. YRB, you can find it
Can I
on her
jump in?
post on her channel.
She's going to be
A
shocked. They
link
did
to
not
it.
take it. We did
They did
whatever
not take it
changes
up.
happened. We did it as a collective group. They never took it up. So the
They
power
didn't.
of us as a united team.
Right. So let me do a quick description of what a civil grand jury is, so that way everybody can kind of get up to speed real quick, and then we'll talk about last year's what we had proposed last year as a civil grand jury investigation, and then we'll go through a few of them that we promoted this year. So I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to present.
Dun, 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 dun.
Share screen.
Oh, okay. Well, or what, okay, YRB, there you go. Then maybe we're wrong. I thought they would have to be in the report. See, why she knows all about this stuff. I wish you could come up here, Yvonne, but you can explain it in chat, I guess, in a few.
And I was feeling that too, also audit, when I was looking at that, because there is evidence that they took it up and they did do an investigation. So a civil grand jury, there's there's a criminal grand jury, which is what most people are familiar with, is that a company or a person is presented to a criminal grand jury and they found evidence to take it to a full court. But a civil grand jury, so a criminal is against a person or an organization for criminal actions. In a civil grand jury, let me read this to you. In California, because there are only a couple of states that have civil grand juries. A civil grand jury is a body of citizens, just like a jury selection, typically 19 in number, that acts as a watchdog over local government. So, governmental departments, governmental entities, governmental people. They investigate the operations of the county and the city governments, special districts, and certain joint power agencies to ensure they are functioning effectively and in the best interest of the public. The jury issues reports with findings and recommendations, and government entities must respond to these recommendations. So they have the investigative, a watchdog role, it's confidential, and then they produce a final report. And the confidentiality is important because um, it, it's behind the scenes, it's secretive. It's so that way things aren't out in the open and you can present an issue, a problem, or something that needs resolution with your governmental bodies and your governmental offices that need to happen. And the jury does the investigation once you propose what you feel is incorrect or unlawful. Do you want to add anything to that, audit?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to know. I'm curious if Yvonne could tell us if it doesn't always result in a report. Because when I was going through all that, I thought if they did it, it ends up in a report. But is there any way to find out now that it's post that whether or not they did? Because there has been a lot of changes. But I would really like to know, is it because they did investigate and intervene in some level, or was it just us? Like, that means a lot to everybody, um, who's calling in and writing in and all that
Right.
stuff. So I'd like to know.
So YRB just answered your question as you were
Yeah.
saying that, which YRB is the end
Ah,
all.
okay. See,
She's
I'm
got all.
learning.
If during the investigation process corrections are made in the carrying out of the policy cited as being wonky, it does not get
Mm.
reported.
Can we still find out though, Yvonne, whether or not they did? Like, is there any way we could call or request some clarification since it's no longer secret? Especially if we're the ones who put it in? Because I'd like to know that. And it's very interesting. See, I never even knew there was a civil grand jury. So I think it's very fascinating and I
Whoops,
love that
sorry
it
about that.
is. I'm wondering, I'm gonna try, because I think it's, and I'm really glad, like, I really give Yvonne kudos for bringing this to us, because I think there's a great chance, I'm hoping that they pick up, if not all 11 items, if they at least pick up some of them, it'll be great, but if not, I thought that, like, we're probably gonna have to break it up in 3 different segments, and, and so maybe as we, go forward, we can not only just rely on them for them to pick it up, but we can kind of find out maybe what areas everyone may be interested in, and somebody say, oh, I'd like to, maybe call in about that, or write an email about that, or see what I can do, about that. And we can all kind of get our next steps, because we have the whole next year. It's like once a year thing. And so they
Right.
start on July 1st, right? And then we have to wait till next year's, but in the meantime, we can help them out, I feel, right? We can
I
do our
agree.
best
So
to help the
this
process.
process, YRB is communicating with us. No, the report is only required, for example, if they made specific recommendations to the board of the Public Works Department and the city council to force the implementation of the change. An
Okay.
investigation that isn't completed through the reporting process is held confidential. The issuing of the request for the investigation and the calling in and the efforts on the outside all was noted by the jury.
Okay,
So,
awesome.
see, every time Amy M called, every time Haggis called, every time somebody called, that was reported on their jury investigation. So, what we did this year made a huge difference. And it probably made a big enough difference that they didn't have to recommend changes because they made the changes as we called and as the communications were brought to it. Another note, for those that are in different counties, this we presented to LA County. Each county in California have their own civil grand juries. So if you were in Sacramento County or Pasadena County, you would present yours if you were interested, or Riverside for like where the other uh, what's the gold base is. So wherever that you could present to that area for their governmental bodies. So civil grand juries are different in each county.
I think
This
it's an amazing
specifically is
tool.
the LA County.
Yeah, it looks like they dealt with a lot of stuff. I didn't really go through fully the thing, but it looked like they tackled a lot of things in the county. So I think it's such a wonderful tool and should be utilized. And so I'm glad I want to continue doing this as we, even when Scientology loses their tax base and all the kids are free, like there's always going to be something in your community that needs to be fixed and addressed. So with the government.
Absolutely.
So I think that's amazing. And I'm really thankful that Yvonne kind of, got our attention with this last year. And it's just something I think we, definitely want to do going on. And
Do
this
you
year,
want, before we go to the specific one, do you want me to show what the form looks like?
sure.
Let me, while you guys are chatting, let
It's,
me, you do that while I look up what the form, crap, did I just
yeah.
lose
And
you?
I did like for this
No,
year,
I
because there were
didn't.
so many, I did the form and then I did each section, all 11 sections, each written up and stapled separately, but put together. And then I had the CASP report, the big CASP report that we did at the end, because I referenced it in a couple of these. So it was a big package that they received. Okay, good. So if they're paying attention to these meetings, that we got to get these meetings. And we're going to try to get them to give more. I want to talk to the President Kang and say, like, we really need to get more. You got to just let whoever calls in call in. If it's 12 people, it's 12 people.
I am sorry.
It's complaint something. But Yvonne, would it be like like, would it be in other states kind of an ombudsman, even though I know that's for different departments where this seems to like to be an overhead thing, but would it be like if you're in a different state and you wanted something similar, would you go to your ombudsman? Yeah, Pasadena is Los Angeles County.
Um, I know where it's at. I'm just like under the gun trying to find it, so I'm sorry.
better than couch surfing. I
We'll
know this
deal
is
we'll
like,
deal with it. We'll deal with it.
you could be looking while we go over it, I guess. And I just put that, like I said, um, the complaint form, I did fill it out, but really then I had each section. And we have 11 this year. Instead of one, we did 11.
I'm going to bring the number 8 up.
Okay.
We're 1 through 7 are some of them that we've already talked about in the past. And then so
But they're new for
basically when
them.
what you do with your form is you give your name, address, phone number. You do have to give that. You can't do it anonymously. And then you basically tell them what the problem is and any evidence you have. It's really simple.
Yes, and I did it mostly, like I said, through attachments. Like these are, I mean, I
Right.
can, should I just start reading?
You
Number
bet. Go
8.
ahead.
Okay, so number 8 was kind of like going on after, we're starting at 8 because I was printing this up and I ran out of ink. So I was trying to print them all up, so that's why we're starting at number 8. But it kind of goes on the tails of what, because last year all we did was put in about the permit system and the permits, the special event permits, and the how the the portal wasn't working correctly. But this one is called Broken Oversight and Permit Rubber Stamping for Scientology Events. And then you have a summary of concern. Despite extensive and repeated evidence of permit violations, ADA noncompliance, public complaints, and even a pending city attorney investigation, the Church of Scientology continues to receive routine approvals for event permits from the city of Los Angeles. Permits are granted without regard to the organization's compliance history, and oversight agencies have deferred their responsibility, often claiming they have not received objections from the relevant council district CD 13. This reflects a systemic failure of interdepartmental accountability and an abdication of public duty by Public Works, LAPD, and City Council offices. A further concern is the intentional misrepresentation of permit contents by individuals associated with the Church of Scientology, as well as members of LAPD and Los Angeles Fire Department. These repeated misstatements, often made in official or semi-official contexts, suggest a pattern of collusion between various city departments and Scientology. This behavior not only undermines the rule of law, but also results in improper enforcement or non-enforcement of critical permit terms, such as requirements for open fire lanes, prohibition of sidewalk obstruction, and accurate event duration or scope. By tolerating these practices, the city exposes itself to significant financial and legal risk, including potential civil rights litigation and liability for harm caused by unsafe or unlawfully permitted conditions. And then I got into, like, it says relevant oversight and policy framework. And so we're looking at the different law, yeah, I guess laws and everything. And I found LAMC 103.111, which establishes requirements for obtaining and maintaining public event permits, including truthful disclosures and compliance. Because they have lied, they have said that they're not going to have cooking or open flame, or the different things, and they have lied on their permits. And how many times have we called in or emailed and showed the lies, but they still keep getting these permits? And then there's LAMC 2202. It mandates public property be used in ways consistent with safety, access, and equitable enforcement. So, hello, the streets have to have the open fire lanes, period. Then the Brown Act requires public decision-making processes to be transparent and responsive to community input. See, they're not telling the neighborhood councils. They're supposed to be telling the neighborhood councils whenever they're going to have a closed, excuse me, a special events permit to close the street, so the neighbors and the public, so they can, have input, but they're not doing that. And then LAMC 11 establishes penalty for code violations by any permit holder, regardless of institutional status. So, right, they have all these violations, so hopefully they would look at that. And then equal protection and due process clauses requires fairness and consistency in how permits and government privileges are distributed. It seems like they're favored, like they get this, no one else gets all this stuff. Right, Scientology has received repeated event permits despite documented violations of permit terms, including blocked sidewalks, commercial activity, and fire lane obstructions. City agencies continue to issue permits while ignoring photographic, video, and testimonial evidence submitted by the public regarding noncompliance. Public Works and LAPD have both stated in meetings and correspondences that they rely on feedback from Council District 13 when deciding whether to approve future permits. Such deference effectively removes independent oversight and shifts responsibility to political offices, undermining accountability. The city attorney has reportedly opened a case regarding ADA violations by Scientology, yet permit approvals continue without pause. I believe that they did finally pay the fine. I've been working on this for a long time, and at that point, that's where we were at. Although now I do believe that they did pay the fines for all that, and that they wrapped all that up. All right, community members have made dozens of public comments and complaints about unsafe or unlawful conditions, none of which appear to have meaningfully impacted permit approvals. Permits are issued with little to no enforcement follow-up or condition verification, creating a system where compliance is optional for Scientology. No comparable organization in Los Angeles appears to receive the same leniency when failing to meet permit conditions or comply with city regulations. Request for grand jury investigation. We respectfully request the civil grand jury to investigate whether the city of Los Angeles is applying consistent and lawful oversight in granting event permits to the Church of Scientology, whether Public Works and LAPD have inappropriately deferred responsibility to CD 13 instead of conducting their own investigations, and whether past violations by Scientology were properly recorded, tracked, and factored into subsequent permit decisions, and whether a culture of rubber stamping has developed around Scientology permit requests due to political pressure or institutional familiarity. Whether any city staff, including those in LAPD or LAFD, have intentionally misrepresented permit terms to facilitate illegal activity or avoid enforcement responsibility. Determine if there has been transparency, cross-agency coordination, and enforceable accountability in the permit approval process. And that's it for that one. So, this is like I said, to follow up on the permit. So they completely fix it. So it's like, because they're still getting it, it's getting better. I mean, they're not having continuous ones, but they're still getting one for the 4th of July, which in my opinion, with their utter failure to abide or, by any of them, they shouldn't be allowed to have any at this point until they are really in compliance. So I think this one is relevant, even though so much has improved.
Right. And YRB adds a fact that it's key that they investigate not only the plane going overhead, not
Yeah,
only the
right.
financial records and liabilities, but also to the adherence of the policy and check if the policy is in agreement with the state law.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, wait, none of these permits are given enough forward time to get to the neighborhood. Exactly, they're not going, they are required to submit them to the neighborhood councils. And the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council did put in a complaint about that, because once, they didn't even know they were supposed to be getting it. But when we went to them, they did take that up and said, hey, we're not being notified. And so we need to keep pressure on them too. Has that been rectified? Do they now notify you? Did they notify you about 4th of July? And keep that going as well, and these pressure on the
And,
neighborhood councils.
and this could be replicated. Most other states don't have a civil grand jury, but they do have the state attorney general, they do have counties, they do have municipalities that you could be doing these type of checks with other orgs or other missions if they're holding events also, which I know there's one coming up this weekend with, I think Columbus was noted. There was all sorts of them that were noted in
Yes,
the missing in Scientology.
and you can take these, like I could post these and, you could take it and kind of, if you want to do emails or something, kind of say, hey, like, can you look into, this is the law here, or you could tweak it and work it to how you see fit, whether it be for us here to help us in the Los Angeles or taking it to your own community. I mean, the laws may be different in your community, but it's a good starting point. And so, my opinion, my feeling is that if we all just, if we're calling into meetings or writing, these kind of give us guidelines of, what we can all work on this year. And hopefully we get a lot done this year. That's the goal.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's number 9.
Yep, hold on, let me get to it.
Number 9. And
Numero nuevo.
tell me when you're ready.
Numero nuevo. Por
All right.
favor. Ta-da.
This is a shorter one. Okay, this is viewpoint discrimination through public comment suppression. Summary of concern. After months of sustained public engagement by community members raising concerns about Scientology-related abuses, multiple Los Angeles government bodies have altered or eliminated public comment procedures in ways that appear to disproportionately silence critics. The Board of Public Works reduced available speaking time and modified meeting structures to limit public participation. The City Council eliminated call-in options entirely, and the Police Commission has sharply curtailed remote public comments. These changes have had the practical effect of suppressing critical voices and insulating Scientology from further public scrutiny. Relevant legal and constitutional framework. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to petition government and speak on matters of public concern. The Brown Act, that's only in California, but that may be similar in different states, that ensures public participation in local government meetings. The Los Angeles City Charter, number 245, provides for public input and procedural due process in administrative hearings. Equal Protection Clause, 14th Amendment, prohibits rules applied to suppress specific viewpoints or speakers. So that means they can't just, try to drown us out because we're talking about Scientology. LAMC 22.02 mandates equitable access to city hearings and forums for civic engagement. It doesn't sound like we're getting that these days. Facts supporting the concern. The Board of Public Works modified its public comment rules to reduce the time available for callers during meetings where Scientology-related complaints were consistently raised. City Council eliminated its call-in option, making it difficult or impossible for mobility-impaired individuals and working residents to participate. The LAPD Police Commission no longer takes call-in comments consistently, restricting access for critics not able to attend in person. Um, Sorry, as I flip the page, I'll let the plane pass. Boy, I don't know why I'm so busy today. All right,
We can still hear you.
good. All right. Um, These procedural changes followed sustained public pressure and advocacy around Scientology's misuse of public space and privileges. Speakers critical of Scientology frequently filled the queue during previous meetings. Revised rules now limit or exclude those same voices. There appears to be no neutral justification for these changes, which do not increase meeting efficiency and are not matched with increased in-person access. The pattern suggests intentional or negligent suppression of dissenting viewpoints, violating constitutional and statutory rights. So the request for the grand jury is that we respectfully request the civil grand jury to investigate whether changes to public comment rules were implemented with the intent or effect of suppressing speech critical of the Church of Scientology, or whether city departments, including Public Works, City Council, and the Police Commission, violated the Brown Act or other legal duties by limiting public participation, or whether such rule changes disproportionately impact disabled residents, working class Angelenos, and community watchdogs, and whether selective rule changes tied to unpopular or politically sensitive public comment topics constitute viewpoint discrimination. What corrective actions can be implemented to ensure full public participation is restored and protected regardless of subject matter? This one's really important, near and dear to my heart, because it goes way beyond just Scientology. But
It does. And Kellyanne had made a comment that both of us know that she knows how corrupt the LA City Attorney's Office is with regard to the permits. Please feel free to use me in my personal case at any time to help you prove that. Amen, Sister Kelly. Amen.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly, I would really love to. I'd love to get, talk to you more and meet with you and really do that because it's so critical and how they do. There is a lot of discrimination. There's different kinds, like, discrimination, whether because you maybe have a viewpoint, but then but that they're tailoring their meetings and structures to, because like, I know Public Works, they were just annoyed with all of us, and it wasn't even that bad, but they didn't want us all having 2 minutes and 2 minutes, all this stuff. And so they made that changes for us and they need to be called out on that. It needs to be changed.
Haggis has a question. We have realized our comments are not being recorded on the minutes. Should we follow up with them in writing? Does that put them on the minutes?
Okay, let me answer that. Technically, and I know this sounds crazy, the Brown Act does not require them to do that. So anytime you see that, where the people where that's on the minutes, it means they're going above and beyond their call of duty, and which is a great thing. It should be there. It's great when they do it, but it's legally not required. But I mean, who knows? Maybe if they adjust the Brown Act, I mean, they could always, put an adjustment to the Brown Act. But I think even if they don't change the Brown Act, I think it's great to put that pressure. Yvonne was really putting pressure on them to do that. And I don't know, did they ever do it even once? But like we keep shaming them because like the ADA, commission, they do it. And I think
They do a beautiful job of it.
they
Yeah.
do. Ethics Commission does too, I think, right? They do it.
I think so. Yeah, and
A great question.
yeah, wonderful question. YRB had another. You also have to look at the way the Scientologists relate to the community you're in if you're at a different location. Peter, I that was my thing that just popped in my head. Thank you. I will ask that in just a second. If everyone could become a localized expert, it'll drive Scientology absolutely bonkers to have to address the inquiries.
I think that's
So,
great.
Peter, thank you for. I don't know what you're saying here. Do you want to see a video of me? Oh, okay, I'm going to hide that one. But what Peter found for us was there was a lawsuit about the Brown Act and about whether they were able to adjust the timing of public comment. And yeah, it's completely legal. Now, whether it's moral and ethical and, out of sync with ADA, probably not. But
But
there was a lawsuit that in California about that.
but
And I
that's
can't
why I
remember what
took
the
the
lawsuit was,
angle of,
Peter.
oh, sorry.
Go
That's
ahead.
why I took the angle of it, is it viewpoint suppression? Because yes, they are legally, he's absolutely right. They're allowed to change it. They're allowed to change different rules. And they can, they just have to have it. They have to make sure they have it. But they can't change the rules based on viewpoint suppression. That goes against the heart and soul of the Brown Act. So that's why I'm calling them out on that.
Right.
Sounds good. Okay.
So absent the we'll go to the next one just a second. LABPW adjusts the time to accommodate the Film LA speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did. They gave them a whole bunch of time. So they
Yep,
have the capability of doing it.
they
They
can. And
just
I'm,
don't
I'm
want
really
to.
pushing Kang on that. I think he's going to change it.
Yeah. Absent the local neighborhood council involvement for opportunity for input, it forces the input to the department level and city council level. Yes,
Mhm.
it does.
Yeah, and I agree. And that takes it away from the real, local government, which is what, and the NCs always do get that level of disrespect, which is sad because Public Works, the neighborhood councils, they don't even have enough time to be able to be heard because they have to, like, if they're going to send somebody from their neighborhood council to discuss something, they have to have a meeting first. So they only post the agenda 3 days in advance because it doesn't go up through committee like the city council does. And so there doesn't leave time. So it's really not a fair process. And that's maybe for next year. I need to maybe hit that up with the with this process of, but actually, I think I did put it in one of these about how unfair it is to the neighborhood councils.
Oh, okay. Well, I popped up number 10 for you.
Okay. This is the one I'm really hitting hard this year. This is, and I told them in my application, I said, number 10 is really my number one right now. And, so I said, if you're, I want you to look at everything, but this is if you're only going to take one, this is the one I want right now. And so it's forced labor and anti-slavery ordinance violations on city property. Summary of concern. The city of Los Angeles has an anti-slavery and human trafficking ordinance. Ordinance number 182724 enacted to prohibit forced labor, indentured servitude, and exploitive wage practices within the city's jurisdiction. Despite this, the Church of Scientology appears to engage in practices that violate this ordinance on a regular basis, particularly in the area surrounding L. Ron Hubbard Way. These violations occur openly, often on public-owned property, and have been repeatedly brought to the attention of the city, including Public Works, Street Services, LAPD, and the Fire Department, without corrective action. The individuals performing this labor are Sea Organization Sea Org members, a cadre of full-time Scientologists who sign billion-year contracts and live communally under highly restrictive conditions. These individuals routinely perform heavy manual labor, including sweeping curbs, setting up tents and barricades, dragging audio equipment, and even constructing full sound stages, event platforms, and street infrastructure as part of Scientology's community events, such as the 4th of July celebration, Christmas, and Easter events. These are jobs that in virtually any other context would be filled by unionized tradespeople governed by prevailing wage and safety standards. Sea Org members are reportedly compensated as little as $50 per week before taxes for 110 plus hours of labor. Scientology claims this is permitted under the religious volunteer exemption, but that argument collapses under scrutiny when the work being performed mirrors that of a commercial event production team. The framing of these mass-scale street closures and event builds as religious expression allows Scientology to evade wage laws, construction permits, and labor safety protocols while occupying city-owned streets and sidewalks for weeks at a time. The
Can I
problem is,
interrupt you? Can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you real quick?
sure,
So, also, a 501c3 cannot compete with regular business. So, they are taking away unionized labor. They're taking away um, stuff that a regular business could be doing, and that's illegal to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's a great point, and I didn't even, you're teaching me something with that. I didn't know that, and that, well, hopefully they will, and they'll put that in, they'll figure that part out, because that's an excellent point. Like, I see the point that they should be doing it, but the fact that it's illegal, then we have to keep pushing on this. Um, I know they did push it for where their studio, and that now anyone working from the Sea Org for their studio has to be paid proper wages. So they don't, even if they're Sea Org. So I know they won when it came to the theatrical, the studio
Mhm.
stuff. Um, okay, so, all right, Sea Org members are reportedly, wait, did I? Okay, the problem is not just Scientology's internal labor structure. The core issue is that the city and county of Los Angeles continue to permit this activity, often through Public Works and Street Services issued special event permits, without requiring prevailing wage compliance, union labor, or basic human rights review. The abuse of these laborers happened on public property, under permits issued by local government, and with the appearance of municipal approval or willful negligence. These are not spiritual rituals. They are infrastructure builds, logistical setups, traffic management deployments, and commercial scale operations. That work, when performed on city land under a city permit, must be held to the same standards required of any other institution, regardless of religious affiliation. The intentional misclassification of laborers as religious volunteers when they are in fact constructing physical stages, public barricades, sound booths, and lighting trusses for public events should be viewed not as protected activity, but as indentured servitude in violation of local, state, and federal law. The grand jury must also consider whether Public Works, Council District 13, LAPD, and fire officials have knowingly tolerated or cooperated in allowing this exploitation, and whether internal staff have been misinformed, misled, or complicit in violating the rights of those workers. Relevant legal and ethical framework. City of Los Angeles Anti-Slavery and Human Trafficking Ordinance prohibits the use of forced or underpaid labor on public property or through city contracts and permits. California Labor Code establishes minimum wage, overtime, and rest period protections for all workers in California. Another California Labor Code 1720 requires prevailing wage for labor on public works or publicly permitted projects. California Constitution outlaws involuntary servitude in any context, including under religious claims. Fair Labor Standards Act, federal wage and hour laws. UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights states that governments must prevent labor exploitation even in religious institutions. IRS Publication 526. Volunteer guidelines clarify the distinction between bona fide volunteers and misclassified workers. U.S. Department of Labor fact sheet number 71. Religious workers may not be exempt from labor law when performing commercial or manual labor. Facts supporting the concern. Sea Org members have been documented sweeping sidewalks, building event infrastructure, barricading streets, and performing logistical labor across multiple city blocks. These workers receive symbolic weekly stipends for labor that mirrors professional grade event setup roles. Scientology's special event permit activity on L. Ron Hubbard Way regularly includes the construction of sound stages, scaffolding, lighting towers, and power grid infrastructure work typically performed by licensed union contractors. These workers are not protected by OSHA standards, wage laws, or union rights, and have no realistic ability to refuse or negotiate terms. The church claims religious exemption while conducting large-scale physical operations under city-issued permits on public land. The Bureau of Street Services, Public Works Commission, and CD 13 have been informed of these practices, yet continue to issue permits and enforce no accountability. Permit terms and conditions do not appear to require proof of prevailing wage, proper contractor designation, or union labor when the applicant is religious, creating a de facto carve-out from labor law. This creates two systems of enforcement, one for secular institutions and a much looser one for Scientology. Request for the grand jury investigation. Whether the labor used by Scientology on city streets and sidewalks, particularly for event permitted by the city, violates wage, labor, or anti-slavery laws. Whether the religious exemption defense is improperly applied to labor that is indistinguishable from commercial or public works activity. 3, whether the Bureau of Street Services and Public Works is issuing permits without requiring lawful labor standards, and whether staff are acting negligently or under pressure. 4, whether the city and county of Los Angeles have exposed themselves to civil liability by facilitating or ignoring potential indentured servitude on public property. 5, whether Public Works and all associated departments have policies to verify the labor sources of event setups involving stage builds, scaffolding, electrical connections, or traffic barricades. They don't even do correct electrical connections. All right. 6, what enforcement or audit measures must be implemented to ensure that forced labor under the guise of religion is not permitted to build, operate, or maintain infrastructure on city streets? And that's a doozy. This one's got to be like my number one passion for this year. I think this is like, for me, this is it. This is like the one I'm adopting. But we need all these hit on, really.
So, a couple of comments. RPF can be at quarter pay of $12.50 a week minus taxes. Some others can be at half pay, which is only $25 a week, which is even more atrocious than the $50 a week. Haggis asked, do we have a copy of the lawsuit filed against them for the film industry violations?
I don't believe it was through a lawsuit. I believe it was through labor, like through maybe the Department of Labor. So I mean, maybe I'm going to try to do a CPRA request. I haven't thought of doing that. I could be wrong. I mean, I'll try to see if there is a lawsuit because that would be great to know, but I don't think it got that far, but I could be wrong. But if anyone
Amy
wants
M
to help
wants to know,
investigate
did
that,
you write this audit?
huh?
Did Amy M would like to know, did you write this audit?
I did, and do a lot of research and help and stuff, through, I put it through like the research and stuff, but, yeah, and I mean, yeah, this is my work, but I also, I ran it through things like, like, and, the help with like what to do the research and stuff.
Haggis, yes, the details would be helpful. We have thought about it in the past of trying to find the wording. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It is amazing, isn't it? Last year I and YRB and audit we did the one from last year, so we learned a lot last year. And
yeah.
audit said, "I accept that challenge. I'm going to do 11 of them this year."
I know. I've been working on it for like a really long time, and it's like I wanted to put more like the laws, and I learned a lot through it. You know what I mean? And then, you know, but yeah, it was like a long process. But and then of course I had YRB, even though she's been injured, and she helped me because as like I was, as I was doing them, she's like, well, no, you need to focus it more on not what them looking at Scientology, but looking at the city. So we had to do, revisions and stuff. But yeah, all together, put together, and then and it helps like, put all the wording together and all that stuff. So
Definitely teamwork, that's for sure.
definitely.
So, Asiasi Marie has a question. Have they got a permit for the cafe as the seller food to the public? I'm pretty sure they do because I know they've had inspections. They go through regular inspections in the cafe.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if they get the health department comes down there. I mean, well, you know what? That's a good question actually, because if you don't see the pass, like they like whenever you have a restaurant here, you have to have a passing ABC or whatever, like from the health department. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Oh gosh, my dogs.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought there was. I thought somebody had posted one last year. There was some talk about it, but
Hmm.
audit, be nice to your doggies. Oh my goodness.
They want me. I know. I don't know what they just setting each other off. Come on, guys. This one, because I, I didn't think I was going to be able to get to number 11. But this is the one that Yvonne, um,
Let me
Rosie,
switch to it.
the the Yvonne's like what was saying if we could get to well I was able to get 10 and 11 in the last couple weeks to do that, but number 11 is the one that Yvonne wanted to get to because she was working on this. This is very near and dear to her heart,
It
and
is, and
so.
there's a huge team working on this in Florida also.
Yes. Okay, section 11, unregulated sauna vitamin protocols and coerced detoxification under Scientology's purification rundown. Summary of concern. The Church of Scientology continues to operate dangerous, medically unregulated sauna and detoxification programs across Los Angeles County. At the center of these operations is the so-called purification rundown, a pseudo-scientific regimen created by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, which subjects participants, including minors, trauma survivors, Sea Org members, and vulnerable adults, to hours of extreme heat exposure, excessive exercise, and megadoses of niacin and other vitamins. This regimen is brutal by design. Participants are required to spend up to 5 hours daily in high heat saunas, exercise intensely, and ingest up to 5,000 milligrams or more of niacin daily, vastly exceeding medical guidelines and potentially inducing severe flushing, liver toxicity, nausea, dizziness, and psychological distress. Most undergo this program without medical clearance, without licensed supervision, and under the coercive spiritual and institutional pressure unique to high control groups. While presented by Scientology as a religious practice, this program forms the core of Scientology's Narconon drug rehab model, which is marketed not only to members but to the public, to court-ordered clients, and even to LAPD outreach programs and jail reentry systems. Despite no scientific evidence proving its effectiveness in treating addiction, Narconon continues to operate with public-facing legitimacy, exploiting loopholes in religious freedom and drug rehab regulation. What makes this particularly disturbing is that people have died from this program. In 2011, Stacy Dawn Murphy, a 20-year-old woman enrolled in a Narconon center in Oklahoma, died after being subjected to this protocol. Her death is not an isolated incident. Multiple Narconon centers have faced lawsuits and regulatory crackdowns tied to this dangerous regimen. The medical consensus is clear. There is no evidence that this method detoxifies the body. In fact, the scientific community has repeatedly stated that the liver and kidneys perform detox functions naturally and safely, and that the extreme sauna exposures and megadosing vitamins can cause serious irreversible harm. Despite this, the County of Los Angeles has failed to intervene or regulate. Scientology sauna rooms do not appear in any public health inspection databases. Their practitioners, often unlicensed and spiritually appointed auditors, are not certified under California's massage therapy or touch therapy statutes. There is no record of standard health or safety compliance, no warning to the public, and no sign of routine inspections or enforcement. Former members and survivors have also reported being subjected to the rundown as children, sometimes as young as 10 or 11 years old, with no informed consent and no protection from its harmful effects. Survivors of abuse, addiction, and trauma have recounted suffering, hallucinations, psychological breaks, dehydration, and permanent organ damage after undergoing this regimen. The spiritual rationale for the rundown is based on L. Ron Hubbard's 1978 theory that drugs and radiation are stored in body fat and can only be sweated out through a combination of heat, vitamins, and exercise. He also taught that this was necessary to achieve clear spiritual advancement. These ideas have been universally debunked by medical science. Nevertheless, they continue to form the foundation of programs marketed in California as both religious services and drug rehabilitation. When these facilities operate without medical oversight, without proper licensure, and without city or county inspections, and yet are used as tools of coercion, indoctrination, and public-facing legitimacy, we must ask, why are city and county officials allowing this? Why is no regulatory body protecting the Scientologists themselves, let alone the public being recruited into these programs? Relevant legal and regulatory framework. California Health and Safety Code regulates saunas, health facilities, and commercial detox operations. California Business and Professional Codes require certification for massage therapists and touch practitioners. California medical practice prohibits unlicensed persons from performing treatment that implies or substitutes for medical care. California Civil Code 51, the UNRRA Act, guarantees equal protection in public accommodations and services. Federal Trade Commission Act bars deceptive advertising of health services. CAMTC licensing standards mandate proper training and certification for anyone engaging in therapeutic physical contact. County Public Health Codes require permits and inspections for facilities providing heat-based or detoxification services. Facts supporting the concern. The purification rundown involves up to 5 hours a day in high heat saunas, strenuous exercise, and megadosing vitamins like niacin, 500 to 5,000 milligrams a day. No medical clearance or license supervision is documented for participants. The program is used in Narconon centers, which have been marketed to drug courts, jails, and LAPD reentry programs in Southern California. Multiple deaths, including that of Stacy Dawn Murphy, have occurred following participation in these programs. The county has no public record of regulating, inspecting, or even recognizing these facilities despite their scope and risk. Touch therapy or body processes administered during the rundown are performed by unlicensed individuals, potentially violating CAMTC and consumer protection laws. The program is imposed on children and coerced adult members, particularly within the Sea Org, under conditions that defy public health best practices. These protocols are rooted in L. Ron Hubbard's pseudoscience, including claims about radiation and drug residue being stored in fat and released only through intense heat and vitamin flushing. Local government has failed to intervene despite extensive documentation, testimony, and national scrutiny. Request for the grand jury investigation. One, whether any Scientology affiliated or Narconon affiliated facility in Los Angeles County has a valid permit or inspection history for operating saunas and detox programs. I know they have it at the Blue Building. Two, why the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health has failed to regulate or investigate these facilities despite substantial public health risk. Three, whether touch therapy or massage-like physical processes are being performed without proper state certification and whether CAMTC enforcement is being bypassed. Four, whether the city and county's relationship with LAPD and Narconon has facilitated unsafe or unlicensed drug rehabilitation referrals. Almost done. Five, whether minors or other vulnerable groups are being exposed to these regimens without proper medical screening or consent. Six, what civil or criminal liability exists for agencies that have tolerated or failed to prevent this exploitation. Seven, what immediate protective measures can be implemented to prevent further injury, death, or misuse of public resources to legitimize pseudoscientific abuse. That's it. This is like, I feel like was like writing a doctorate or like your term paper
It is.
for,
There was a couple of comments, and then also I know VGI was also gonna. It's only 30 minutes of exercises daily before the sauna, which is
right?
good that there is a little bit of reprieve on that. But there is supposed to be a medical, um, like when you go in for a sports physical, there's supposed to be one. Not everybody adheres to that, but there's supposed to be a physical before they go in for it.
But they use their
And
own people. I think they use their own medical clinics.
they do. Yep.
So, rubber stamp.
Yep. Rubber stamp. And then the CCDC certs they got 20 years ago have been pulled by the accredited organizations, but that's not current stuff. And they aren't doing the saunas certifications because we already found that out.
Right. And yeah, they're just being ignored and they're all in the buildings. They don't allow people to come in and really inspect, I don't think. And so it's like everyone's just, oh, it's Scientology, it's a religion, they're doing what they're doing. So that would never fly in any kind of gym or any kind of spa place. That would never fly. And the
Right.
fact that it flies here is just utterly ridiculous.
And
Hey,
they
BGI.
may, but that's part of the investigation is what is being adhered to per city and state policies and county policies. And so it's just the investigation. It's the insinuation that we look at making sure the certification processes are being adhered to um, through the governmental process. And that's where that starts. The other thing that we need to maybe add is for the touch assist and for the um, any type of contact with minors, they're supposed to be having two people now.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that's what, I mean, well, it kind of said in there, kind of, it didn't go into that. That's a new law, I think, right? But we did say that anyone doing, they call it touch assist, but it's the same as like massage therapy, any kind of touching, that they have to follow whatever laws are on the books.
Right. So do they have, are they following policy of the
Mhm.
new laws? Yeah. So that's
Right.
something we could throw in there.
Yeah, we could probably send updates to them, really. I mean, just because we got everything in time for this year, but doesn't mean we can't do like follow-up questions or points. Or so if anyone has that, we could, continue to add it. And Gee, I don't know about, they have, because Laura took me over there. It was so sad and creepy. I guess kind of like their hospice area. And I wonder if any of that's regulated. I mean, maybe that's for next year to see if any of these, how they keep their seniors, the hospice, excuse me. Um, I guess they don't have nurseries, but even like for, if they do have school age kids, whatever, that any of that regulated.
Yeah, and I agree that there is supposed to be a physical. Power Lies says, as a public, I keep messing it, sorry. Um, his primary care doctor had to sign off on the PURIF paperwork. Yes, they're supposed to, but does it truly happen? And is there somewhere where they have to report it through policy to the governmental agencies? And that's where it is. Is it being followed through in each
And
individual place, in
uh,
specifically LA?
right, and also like, because I remember Laura was talking once about this medical place, it's, and where they send all their people for like the medical, are they just signing off? Are they going to say no? I mean, it doesn't mean that they're not. I mean, we're not saying that they're not getting any kind of medical oversight, but, we need to make sure that they are, because it doesn't, if it's also internalized and everything's internal, there's no oversight. Like, you go to your primary care physician, he's supposed to be external from the religious order, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? But if they're using their own, everything's like with the Lisa McPherson, they had to go bypass all those hospitals to make sure they got to a Scientology doctor. So I don't think they're going to send their Sea Org people to, outside of. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. And if any of this is like inaccurate, hopefully they'll figure it out. But I question whether or not that kind of oversight is actually oversight.
Right. And I don't know if the PURIF or the saunas or anything would be eligible for Medicaid or Medicare.
Yeah, I think it's more like, well, it's funny because I know that people have to pay for it, right? It's like if you're independent, or public. But I guess Sea Org, does that go onto your bill? Maybe they just do it for you, but does that go into your debt load, or?
I'm pretty sure it does because the PURIF costs money. Hey, it's always something. Glad you're here. I was talking about you earlier. It's always something as our Florida crew.
Okay, see, this is interesting. When the Board of Narconon, see, that's another one they really need to look in, that there's no mental health or medical doctors. I know someone whose friend went through that, and they were traumatized by the process. She claimed that they almost died, and that it was very improperly run. And so it's really urgent, and that's why I know Yvonne was really big on this one. We had to get her all mended up so she can get back to it, back to the fight, Yvonne,
Back
because it's really
into the
important.
fire.
People have died in that process, and especially with Narconon, and to use that as as like a rehab, I have trouble with, and I know like Scientology is not going to be happy with this, these reports that we're putting out. They're not going to be happy with it, but it needs to be looked at, and if they can't be up to being scrutinized with it, then what can we do? But if we're having Narconon and they're advertising that to people who are not even Scientologists, maybe through the jails or through, because I know in LAPD, they have they try to a lot of times offer where you can, instead of going to jail or instead of doing that, you go through rehab. And if Narconon is one of those options, you're putting people, the city is then putting people at risk if it's not done properly, and
Hmm.
so it's really important issue. So we need people that can take these on. Like I said, we have how many? We have what, seven more besides these, and they all touch on different things, and they're all important. Every bit of it's important, but but for me right now, this year, I'm like, my teeth are sunk into the slave labor, and then we need people like the purists. That's another one that to me is very passionate. I think that could be something that could really bring a lot of reform, is dealing with the purif.
It sure can. It sure can.
Yeah, that's a good
So,
idea. I mean, that's true, Gina. Like if they are taking insurance, like if they're going through rehab and they're not, like, it's public facing, and so the public facing part of it could be billing insurance, or not, maybe not billing insurance, but maybe billing the city or through court if it's court ordered. Or we probably do need to really look into how deep the claws and tentacles are of Narcanon within city, within our justice system, within the courts. and see if there is any, how deep it is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something that I haven't really uh, chewed on. Maybe we can talk a few people that are that were in Narconon and everything and get some information about their billing process. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know how they do it.
Right. And also how
Should
it's
I
like
try to
connected to the
admit
city. Does
yourself?
this,
Gina, that would be funny.
yeah, and but sometimes, but also too, is the courts offering this as a deterrent, as a deter to not, to avoid going to jail, that you offer, like, okay, if you go to rehab, you won't have to go to jail type of thing. If they're offering Narcanon on that list and the city is paying for it or the county's paying for it as part of a, the justice system thing, then that's a huge issue too. Like our tax dollars and are paying for this.
It is. That's true.
And so I
So
want to find out.
YRB mentions that last sentence. I know these are already submitted. They had to be submitted um,
Yeah, I didn't have any
by
more time.
June 30th. But
And
that's okay. We can always amend. And I
what did she
doubt that they're
say?
going to take
What's
them
wrong?
all up. So
Wait,
what
what
are
did
you
she
doing,
say?
Audit? Are you having spasms?
I know. Sorry. No, I was trying to flip up. Sorry. I know. I
No.
get.
And we can
Um.
always do them next year. Now, these people they sit on this jury for a year, and it's a part-time or a full-time job for them. So these investigations and this information is taken up, and this is their job for the year.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to be on one of these, like, sometime, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd really want to do it, but it's interesting. And I mean, there's going to be little things or whatever, but they'll get the gist of it. That we just want them to overlook it. That's all we need. And if Scientology doesn't like it, I'm sorry, but we have a right to make sure that our city and our county is doing everything by the book. And with all of our concerns, with all the stuff, we have had too many people come out of Scientology and saying all this stuff is happening. And we have a right to say, hey, well, we demand that it be looked into.
Haggis is saying from the lawsuit info she read, people were paying up to $10,000 for Narcanon.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I tell the story of there was a couple of people down in California that were covered by our insurance, the board that I'm on, and we were charged by Narcanon for a lot of money, like way overcharged. We ended up settling with them, but yeah,
Wow.
we got taken for it.
Yeah, we need to but these are like really important, like, like I know what meeting, it wouldn't be Public Works. I wonder what meetings would handle this kind of, like, for the Purif rundowns, if there's like what meetings would be where we can talk about that, about their licensing and checking the inspections. There may not be a meeting for that. Maybe just city council,
Building inspections,
building and safety.
licensing.
I wonder if they have meetings. We have to look deeper into the, maybe county meeting. We've only really touched on city meetings. We haven't really tackled county meetings so much, but maybe we need to look into county meetings.
City council, the health
Yeah,
department, right, Twyla?
yeah. But I don't know if do they have meetings? I mean, we could go complain to them.
They've got to have meetings. Public health department. Well, the city council has a health committee.
No, they don't. Do they?
Yeah, they
No,
do.
they don't. Do they? I don't know.
I don't
Well,
know.
what about the Board of County Supervisors? Because wouldn't it be more county or what? Sorry, I was like, my arm's getting tired.
I don't know.
What?
YRB says the public health department at the county has their head in the sand on this issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
but
know you were working hard on that.
if we can continue to show them evidence and provide written documentation, they're going to have to pull their head out of the sand or the ass or something.
Yeah. I think we need to keep putting a lot of pressure. We never really, because I mean, it's a lot, so right now, like doing the city council, but maybe can slowly I'll add a county or something. I don't think it's that far from city council, and maybe start going into, maybe once in a while, going to those meetings and bringing up this stuff.
Jaco probably would be a good thing, a good place to go.
Where?
Jaco, it's it's where they get their credentials or their point system. Gina's going to be able to explain it way better. But it's
Okay.
the hospital institution point system to make sure that they're, it's kind of like uh, making sure that the food service is right. Yeah, they need to be credited by JACO.
But are they?
I don't know. It's a
And
good
don't they, for
question.
massage, for touch assist, don't they have to have like massage therapy? Because they're saying it's their religion, but they go out and do this at like car accidents or disaster scenes. That's no longer, because they're touching people who are not part of their religion. So in my opinion, that makes them a masseuse when they're doing that. That has to be regulated.
Yeah.
Instead of
Joint
the,
Commission Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations.
I never heard of that one. All right, we need to look into that maybe. But see, these
So,
are just
like,
different things that people can
the
tackle.
hospitals, I know they get JACO scores. So they come in and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and that all of their equipment's up to date and all the licenses. That's their
But
accreditation
but that's
scores.
for hospitals, right? They're not a hospital.
Right, but you could bring that to, are they covered by JACO?
Hmm.
A Narcanon purification.
I want to see them out of business because I don't like that that's how they're doing detox. I hear it's very brutal. Like it's even
So,
worse for like than the religious ones for me, in my opinion, like the religious ones, but the using it for detox and people are already going through detox is hard enough, I would imagine. And then to add this to it, which is probably very brutal, I could see why they've had deaths and injuries.
so
The lo-
Peter researched and said the Los Angeles City Health Commission meets every second Monday of the month at 6 p.m.
you are so helpful, Peter. Now,
I know.
yes, where would we do, what would we do without you, Peter? But now but is it in person only, or I wonder if it has like, we can call in?
We'll have to look it
Yeah,
up.
I have to look more into the county. I've been so focused on the city, but we can branch out and get more people, with all these meetings, it's really important that, like I know after it seems like a year, but there has been a lot of progress. And if we really keep hitting it hard, there's going to be more. We have a new public works commissioner coming. I met him. He seems like a nice guy. He seems very friendly. He's an engineer. So we can maybe get Yvonne back on the, that's, she can come back in and do the engineer talk to be able to right and to say the right words because that's not my area. But and so he seems good, and I am happy with Kang. Kang is listening. He's willing to talk to me, and and so I want to keep pursuing that, and I'm going to try to get this Brown Act stuff. I'm going to request it. The worst he can do is say no, but I think if we keep pushing this constantly, more changes
So
will happen.
YRB says Narcanon is still functioning in Ojai, but that's not in Los Angeles. And then Peter says Stephanie Lemus, MA, PhD, CD13 is the rep on the LA City Health Commission.
Interesting. They're saying I have to look this up. Okay, I wonder where. I want to write to her. We need to take her name and get her email. Like maybe we should have like our own little committees, like who wants to tackle
There we
Pura,
go.
if anyone wants to volunteer and if everyone would just say, hey, okay, I'm willing to tackle this, I'm willing to, because if one person could just even do one little thing, it adds up, it all adds up. Even if it's only like 15 minutes a week, you can say, okay, I can make a couple calls or I can do a reach, I can send an email. It all helps because so much has changed already. I mean, look, like by now, by July, it would have been endless street closures from April all the way to now. There wouldn't have been a weekend break or a week break. And there has been, there hasn't been one since Easter. And this one is only, they're not even getting the whole weekend. They're only getting the day and not even the whole 24 hours, so
I
it
know,
is
that's amazing.
drastically, like our permit was for more hours than their permit, which is amazing.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping with that little chat I had, since they, dragged me into a meeting and didn't show up, that I really got to talk to him and tell him, look, they do not abide by their permits. Not once have I ever seen them compliant. And he seemed surprised. He's like, really? I'm like, yes, haven't you been receiving, like lots of emails about it? But I'm like, I am telling you straight up, they do not. And you need to, like, I don't understand why they are continuing getting permits. So with that pressure, who knows? Maybe there'll be a time where they're not getting any more permits.
Haggis is asking, can we look at overseas documentation on undoing the efficacy of Narcanon? We can.
We
We
can.
can look at anything we want.
This
Germany,
could,
UK, France. Yep.
yeah, Australia, right? Like I know there's a lot of stuff going on litigation wise, whatever in Australia. But Haggis, this would be a lot of stuff that could end up on the website, on your website too, which, we should promote in here.
Yeah, that's a
And,
great idea.
so much of like however you want to, what I mean? Like this is the stuff and, and just calls of action or people can, like try to figure out what they can do, research, and then put it and then send it to somebody and maybe we could take next steps and next year, because there's a lot of work, maybe we can all start now that we turned this in. That's what we did you start right away. So right now I'm going to start for next year. So if anyone wants to get in on working on that with me, we can do it.
Yeah, while you're talking, I am just kind of looking through to make sure I didn't miss anything, any important questions
Yeah.
or comments.
And any topics you think we should take up with them or anything we can reinforce. And I think this,
In not only LA, but what about San Francisco or Sacramento?
mhm.
The other counties, if you guys are in the other counties and would like to address, I know, was it San Francisco? No, uh, Pasadena. They have the best purification and
That's LA
sauna
County though.
program. Oh,
So
that's
the
LA
ones that we
County?
did will cover Pasadena,
Oh, okay.
thankfully. But Riverside County, and
Yep.
yeah, and so people, I don't know if someone, I think somebody has to live or whatever, but if you could get somebody that can, it's kind of like the permits. They want locals from what it seems, but it's not worth, I mean, it's worth trying. So the more we could get this out, the more we can fix things. Clearwater would be a good one. We have a lot of Clearwater people. And I don't know if
Mhm.
they have, I don't know what they have, but I wonder what but did anyone,
There, as I said, there are people down in Florida that have taken a lot of this up. Now, they don't have a civil grand jury, but they do have a process through their state's attorney.
okay, well, there we go.
But those that are in Florida that would like to, give me an email and I'll hook you up with. I have people.
Yes, you do.
We
And
have
Marie,
people.
the Australian government pays places like Narconon to provide the services. That's what I'm concerned about with Los Angeles, that they're doing the same thing. So I don't know for sure, but that's what I want to find out. So if you say, okay, like because the diversion, it's diversion, like, okay, you won't go to jail, but you have to go to treatment. Are we paying for Narconon? And we really need, I would love to get medical, like an evaluation, like that'd be another good project to get actual medical people, like to sign off on, no, this is too much, not, and to really sign off and put their name to saying they disagree with these protocols.
Yeah. Haggis had another question. Ada, I sent you Andreas's info to negate Narcanon's info, didn't I?
When did I did you? I don't know. I'll be on this today, or you talking about from way back?
I don't, you're gonna have, she'll have to respond.
Yeah, I, you probably did. I'm
Um,
probably just not thinking it right now. Like right now, I'm a little bit burned out. But it was such a relief to get this thing out at the
it,
very final stretch.
it is. Last year was kind of tough because we didn't know what we were doing. At least this year we had a little bit of a precedence.
Yeah, and well, last year we just found out about it. Like Yvonne was like, "Oh, we could do this," and it sits like I think we had like a couple weeks where this I had a whole year to prepare. But and so we have a whole year for next year. So next, we could I'm starting. I'm gonna start. I mean, not today. Giving myself a little bit of a break, but I would love to have help with this and just keep hitting it from different angles instead of just resubmitting it. Maybe just refining it more. Thank you, Haggis. I appreciate it. Because I probably did, but I get so many things sometimes, and I put them all in a file and I go through it as best I can. Unemployment benefits in Australia can go on for as long as you're unemployed for 20 or 30 years. Wow,
That's a long time.
that is, it's pretty generous.
And we agree. Yvonne is an Encyclopedia Britannica. Yes, she is.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I miss her being in action. I know, and she was really going really hard on this Pura before she had her owie. And but I miss her too. Like I liked her, and she's the only person who would like, oh, not the, I mean, like that would read the whole entire package for public works. I'm like, I just love her for that. That was just, and like, so he would like say stuff and she could just shut him down. Like, well, like, well, here on page 5 of your thing, like,
Page page 52 of 972 says like, "All right, good for you."
she would shut him down. It was so funny.
So Peter
I miss
also
it.
says, "Board of Transportation Commissioners meeting agenda July 10th, but this is an in-person meeting only." Yes. Can Audit LA make this meeting and speak about L. Ron Hubbard Way?
Well, can you, the Board of Transportation Commissioners meeting agenda. Yeah, if you send it to me, I should be
Please.
able to. I did one transportation one. I'm wondering if it's the same one. And they said that it was the wrong one, that was for the metro, like the transportation when it comes to metro. So I'll have to see if it's the same one because they just
He
like
just
kind of,
emailed it to me. I'll forward it to you.
okay. Well, no, I think he did to me too because I saw it pop up.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. And so, yes, if it's something I can do, I mean, if it's not that same one,
Fine.
that
I won't
send
send
us
it to
away.
you then. Whatever.
Thank you, Peter. What would we do without
Whatever.
you? So we need to get, keep going with calling with the meetings, keep bugging them. And so now we have like, if, we could take notes from these things and anyone who wants to join in for these phone calls and just, we have these points and we're hoping that they self-correct, right? That's the whole goal. Instead of having to have, and we'll let them know, right? That, civil grand jury is going to be knocking at your door, if you don't self-correct, and or maybe next year we can go hard on them using all the public parking around the building when they have 3 empty lots. Yeah, we can. I mean, that's what we can get started doing for next year. And, try to find new things and also maybe work harder on that. Well, I know the other one, I did address the ones on the street. Like I said, these are only 4 of 11. So there's 7 more that we'll break it down.
Yeah, so we've gone a little, almost an hour and a half tonight, and maybe this weekend or the beginning of the week, we will tackle the other ones. The other ones should go quite quickly because
Yeah.
there's some of them that we've already done in the past and we've talked about a lot. So they shouldn't be too encumbering. Uh, Haggis said, didn't Tommy and Danny Masterson offer it to the New York City Emergency Services after 9/11? Yes, they did. I remember that.
All for what, a Purif?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Tom Cruise did too.
YRB says, yep, it was offered after 9/11 to the fire department and police in New York City.
I hope they ran.
And Gina says, hashtag audit strong. Yes,
Aw,
ma'am. I
thank you, Jean.
believe.
We're just gonna keep working. I mean, that's the whole point. We're just gonna work, 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 and keep
Yep.
pushing because that's
So
just
what
I just gotta get.
YRB is bringing the issue to the grand jury, brings it up to the county level of interest. They aren't just a city grand jury. That's right. So it's not just the city, it's for the whole county. And they look at how they are working with policy and working with the laws of the state, not just the county and the city. So it brings everything together and it advances and promotes what's happening in those governmental departments. So,
Hmm. And Haggis, yes, we had to share the website. And it's just gonna grow. I'm excited about it. It's amazing. You did an amazing job, Haggis. It's beautiful.
yep, it's great. I love it, love it, love it.
Me too. And it's just going to grow, and right, you have different areas of where advocacy. Because a lot of times, I think people don't know where to advocate or how, or what they can actually do. And here we can give this concrete steps on things you can do. If people like to write this kind of thing. Hi, it's like hi.
Yeah,
So
I know Mark Bunker was on today. I just got a text. Mark Bunker even talked about the website today. Woohoo!
that's
Yay!
awesome. I
I
guess you did it.
know. It was
It's so
awesome.
beautiful. That is awesome. And so yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Question. So, what is the first thing you would like to focus on? Like find documents to send you?
I really like for me, I want everyone to pick up something that they can really sink their teeth into. And for me this year, it's this the labor, the slave labor, the indentured servitude, and then in relation to the permits because right because they're building the sets, they're doing that stuff, but in relation to everything. And then also I really want to work hard, which and one of the ones we're going to find out is like with them getting off CPAPs. I want them removed from everywhere, with that stuff. So that's for me. Anyone that has any kind of research or anything that can help me in those two things, I'd be very grateful.
And on the other side of the spectrum, if you have an area that has purification or any of these civil issues, talk to us. Maybe we can help you with your area.
Hmm. Yes, because these things become protocol. Like these things, you could tweak it for your area, like the laws may be different, and that's just, I'm willing to help and I like doing research and research the different things and put it for your area. It just is like a prototype, a jumping off point.
Hmm.
Yes, Amy, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's not LA centric. This is worldwide centric. This is a worldwide problem.
And Amy's saying that we need to find a pediatrician to talk about pure. And this is what I remember we were talking about this last year about, because I feel like the pure thing is something that really could help with like in a big way. But we need to, if there's anyone that would love to like tackle getting pediatric associations informed about this, because I know like Yvonne was like calling and writing to everybody. And like, as you said, right, she did these hospitals, but if we need to get pediatric journals, pediatric medical associations, if we can really get them to face this and to really inform them, that would be amazing. So if we have any medical
Hmm.
people, hint, hint, Amy or anyone else, even though I know Amy's very busy with the
Hmm.
meetings, but there's other medical people and that, because you have that lingo, that language, it'd be very, very helpful. Because yeah, imagine if we got all the, like, what if we got a pediatric medical association to actually step up and say, yes, no, this is harmful.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then we
And
could go to the laws and make laws against it.
yeah, it's always something says they call it a religious service and everyone takes their hands off. They do. Yes, they do.
Mhm.
And there are, I have found in the California laws that they have religious exemption for a lot of this stuff. But religious exemption doesn't uh, mean that they can still abuse.
Mm-mm.
So that's where we need to make the correlation.
Yeah, because with medical, like we were saying, that's why I took the point with when it comes to the slave labor. Okay, you can say you're volunteering. So them, if they're doing the touch assist at a car accident, see whatever, that's maybe a religious thing. But saying that they're building a soundstage for Fourth of July to recruit people, that's not a religious experience. So
Mhm.
so we have to weed out what is religious, what isn't, and with the purification, it may be like something similar. It's not if you're a Narcanan, you're not there as a Scientologist. You're there as an addict trying to get detoxed. And so that's not religious. So,
That's the
you,
difference.
right.
That's
And
where
then
we need to start making those
distinctions.
distinctions. Yep. Okay, you guys, you know what? It is 11:30 here and my
Uh-oh.
eyes are closing very
Okay.
fast.
Thank you for hosting this. I still, I'm going to post it to mine, but I didn't have time. My elevator was out, so we almost didn't have this
I know
tonight.
we almost had to cancel. We had to do our major prayer. Okay, the Holy Spirit, go and fix that dang elevator. It
It was so
worked.
scary. The guy's like, he goes, okay, I'm gonna say, ring the bell if you get out. He goes, if not, I'll find you. I'm like, oh, that's comforting. Me and my elevators, how I feel about elevators. I'm like, but I'm like,
I
no, I have
know,
this
right?
meeting. I gotta face it, and I had to go to the bathroom, but not TMI.
Yep. I got to be up early in the morning because I get to go
Yes.
see grandbabies tomorrow.
Yay.
Yay, yay,
But thank you
yay.
guys for being there and for listening and for helping. And
We
appreciate you so
will we
much.
will continue on. We have 7 more to bring to you,
Hmm.
and those should go fast. So we'll do them maybe this weekend or beginning of the week.
Yep.
Keep your bells and notifications on for notification of the next one. So good night,
Good
all.
night, everyone. Thank you.